Welcome everybody to October 2025's Penterrace CAD training. This month we're going to be covering some of the new standards of operation procedures and how we can use Civil 3D tips and tricks on to make those work a little bit more efficiently or just faster in general. So I have quite a few lists here of items that I would like to cover. But it's still going to be a fairly informal presentation. If you have any suggestions or questions along the way, please feel free to jump right in and ask the question on the meeting. Let's see, find my notes. All right. So today's topics, we got quite a few. There is a PDF in the training folder on the S drive, so just follow the path to get to that for later on. We're going to look at data references, model viewers, optimizing some settings for your performance of your CAD, purge and cleaning up your drawings, how we can get those to look better or smaller file sizes. Again, the standard templates, simplify, just that's the main thing, simplifying a lot of different things that will allow us to work better as a team on a single project and hopefully make some sense in CAD and make it work. So we'll try to hit some of these. We won't get to all of them, but again, the handout has a lot more information on it. And that handout, like I said, it can be found on the S drive. It is on this month's tips and tricks training course. I added a couple other extra links in the presentation. So the one presentation that I recommend everybody going to is the Autodesk University website. If you log in with your Autodesk account, username and password, they have all the classes that were actually presented at the conference. Autodesk University, it runs usually in the fall every single year. It's been all over the place as far as, I think it was in New Orleans this past year. But they have lots of in-person classes, but they record a lot of them and make them available for free after the event. So again, go check that out. There's topics on just about every single thing you could ever think of. I recommend looking for one presenter. His name's Donnie Gladfelter, I believe. He does a very good job of showing a lot of different tips and tricks. And then, of course, I recommend everybody going to your PTE CAD procedures folder on Google Drive, where you can find how to import soils, different LiDAR instructions, and I'll even put some other these essential tips up there, things like that. So again, that's a very good resource. Make sure you use it. And as always, if you find some information that you think would be helpful for other people, please share with us. That way we can have it included in the next meeting or training or whenever. All right, so my first thing we want to talk about is data shortcuts. Flip over here to CAD. Data shortcuts are newer to all of us, but they're going to be a big part of how we move forward with structuring our projects to allow multiple people working together on the same project doing different tasks. I hope some of you have already started using them. We are looking to try to use data references for surfaces, pipe networks, alignments, corridors, any specialized object that is in Civil 3D should be and can be made into a data reference. And what that allows us to do is have smaller files that are specific to that item so that you only have to load the information that is necessary for what you're doing your work on at that time. So if you are doing a pipe network, you want to have your surfaces in, that will be great. You only have to data reference in the one surface that you need. If you are working on creating a base map, you might not have any data references. Or if you have an existing surface data reference, you can then bring data into any and all the other drawings that is necessary. And if somebody needs to update the existing base, that can be brought over and updated automatically in those drawings. It's like an XREF, but just for specialized civil 3D objects. Now I have my let me see, construction drawing open for the hotel that we visited on our site visit over the summer. It is a mess of drawings, just like everything else that we have. A lot of layers are turned on, things like that. Your data shortcut should always be first set up right down here, data shortcuts. You need to make sure you have the correct working folder, which right now you'll notice 25157, that is not the project number for this project. So again, it is very important whenever, I mean, just even going back, when you create files in CAD, always include the project number in the name so that we can always easily and quickly confirm that we are working with the correct data. So in order to change your data shortcut, you can go down here and select it, right click, and we would say set working folder. Then we go to the correct project. Gotta make sure I get it correct. Under design folder, our standard folder structure for each project should have the working folder located under design with the project number and working folder. Once you select that folder, hit the button down there, select folder, and down here, oops, sorry about that, you'll see that the path has changed and it now lists only the surfaces that have been shared out for this project. Same with alignments and pipe networks. So as we get more and more accustomed to using this system, it should be easier and easier for us to share our data between team members and make sure that everybody has the updated information. So just a quick overview of data references. We've done presentations in the past on how to do them, but that's where we're really going and leaning towards how to use those. The second thing I want to really emphasize is 2026 has a new, and again, I'm pretty sure I brought this up once before, a new 3D model viewer. And I've been messing around with it, and I think I have a decent workflow for it now. This allows us to see, spin, look at our surfaces, pipe networks in 3D. So in this construction drawing, one of the things I did find when using it is you kind of want to build your own surface for the model viewer. If we haven't already, let me double check here. We may have already created a surface. No, we have not. We might add a surface to the template called model viewer. What this does is allows us to add a model viewer surface and be able to control the display of how it renders in the 3D model viewer. So the easiest way to get your 3D model viewer up and running is select the surface you want to see, right click on it, and hit select. Now that currently is on a no display option. But now if I right click again, I can say add to model viewer, and it will bring up the model viewer. Now I have it just small for right now, so it's easier for me to kind of pick and choose what I want to see. So a lot of time, and then the one issue you got to be very careful with is when you're done selecting and adding it to the model viewer, make sure you escape a few times. If you have surfaces that are kind of is not being displayed, you need to escape so you don't accidentally move it to a different layer or have it delete it by accident or slide it off to the side. It's a common thing that happens quite a bit. You can actually have something selected and not have any visual clues on the screen that you have it selected. So again, hit escape a couple times just to make sure nothing else is selected that you don't want it to be. Next, I'm going to go down to my pipe networks. On this project, we have a sanitary and a construction storm. Now, if I go and right click on those, This time you can see that some of those things popped up because they are in the drawing and visual and visible. I'm going to right click, add to model viewer, and all the pipes and things, inlets, manholes were just added to this viewer. Now, as you can see, I added it, but all those things are still selected. So again, escape a couple times, gets that cleared out. That way you don't have to worry about accidental deletion, modification, anything like that. All right, so once we have this model viewer, you can see we still need to work a little on styles. Right now, it's everything's surface is red, so it's kind of it's in between here, but we'll get to it. Now we could just take it and move our mouse around. We can zoom in using the wheel, but you can see underneath the surface, you can see all the pipes, all the inlets, all the manholes. I still need to do some research, but I believe the colors actually show if something is not meeting our standards, or like this inlet right here may not have quite enough cover maybe, or maybe there's something else going on there that it wants to call out and let you know. Yellow is probably minimal. Green, I believe, is going to be good. So you can actually analyze what you're designing, how it looks, and how it's working in your project. And you can see the model viewer layer or surface that I created was essentially just the existing surface and then having the proposed surface pasted on top of that. That gives me the full entire site. If you did just the proposed surface, you wouldn't have all this area over here that we did not touch in this part or in this phase of the project. But you can, I mean, as long as you do a good job with your model, you can see all the curbing. You should be able to see the curb ramps. Um, if we had a 3D model of the building, we could include that in there. You can see all the basins. What makes this really useful, and what I used this for specifically here, was looking for any kind of stray um, lines or anything to my surface that just was, you might not see in plan view, but when you look at it here, you could see like, oh, there's a little spike right here, or something like that, that would, you could go and look at it and say, oh, there's a spike there, we need to change that. Or here's a good example. I know this pipe has been changed several times. And it looks like we needed to change the grading so we get a better cover over that pipe. So there's different ways to use it. Like I said, brand new. It can help, especially if you need, you're not the best at reading plans. This will help you visualize. Now I notice here that there's no surface right there. Most likely at some point someone went in there and edited the tin and deleted lines, and that is why that surface is gone. But over here, this is a dirt stockpile that they had originally, so it shows up. As long as we have it on our surface, it's going to show up. So that is the Model Explorer. Again, we mentioned it once before. We'll continue to work on how it presents itself. Um, there's different options. I mean, there is ways to save the image. There's ways to set the view. You can zoom in order, all these things across the bottom. You can also add your objects from within this. It's a little clunky. It basically lists everything you currently have. You can turn them on and off if you need to, right from here. Or you can add objects and it just basically kicks you back out, and you go and you add an object and then it comes back in. One thing I found that's kind of annoying is that you have to keep, if you close this window, you have to re-put all your objects back into the viewer. I'm not sure why they did it that way, but that's how it works as far as my experience so far. The other nice thing about this is I can actually have this as a separate window on a separate screen, and I can go in here and let me see. This is a read-only drawing, just double checking. But let's say I want to change this grading right here. Let's see. We'll put a let's see, a point. Can I just put a point in there? Edit surface. Add a point. I'm going to add a point right here. I'm going to make it 1086. Way too high. It's not going to work right. You do that if your surface is well, I might have broke it already. Okay. there. I put a point in there. You can see, oh boy, I really screwed that up. That is a bad, bad point. And that's what you can quickly and easily see with the model viewer. That's not what we wanted to do. Okay, just to exhibit, just an option, makes it really quick and easy and to find things that are not quite right. All right, let me go ahead and undo that. All right, so that's the model viewer. Again, we can go into much more detail in another training session if the interest is there, or you can always ask and we can go through it again later on. The next thing that we want to do is try to make sure that our software settings are correct. Um, Now, this next one I've had good and bad experiences with. If you want to try it, you can, but knowing how to turn it back off is just as important. Down here at the very bottom, it looks like a little speedometer. This is your hardware acceleration. Graphics config is the command. You can go down here, right click on it, choose that, and at this time, mine is turned on. That should make your system run faster. Okay, it will help with the 3D model viewer. It will help with panning and zooming. Um, but I have also seen where it's run into some issues on some older video cards or cards that might not be up to spec with the newer hardware. Um, so you can always, if you can have it turned on, but if you start seeing little things where there's lines that don't quite go straight or something just doesn't look right, this is also one of the first place I go. I turn it off, exit out of here, turn it back on, and everything gets it. I don't know what happens. It clears something out, but it seems to work pretty well. It will, but you'll if you run into an issue, this is one thing that you can always look at. Try turning this off, turning it back on, and it's crazy that it's that simple to change things, but it does make things run a little quicker. But like I said, I've found that it has been hit and miss in the past. Um, Now, one thing I don't know if this is something that I don't have as much experience with. There is a option to turn regen. I mean, everybody uses regen auto to get things to show up properly. Now, you can actually go in here and you can change on and off. If I turn it off and zoom, things aren't changing. Okay, it's not redrawing the drawing, it's not doing anything. So I don't really know how a good way to explain how or demonstrate what it's not doing, but it's supposed to make things faster if it is off because it's not trying to update the drawing every time you zoom. Let me see if I could, maybe if I change the, nope, that didn't do much. But that's another setting. If you have a very large drawing and you find the performance is slow and it's kind of laggy when you're zooming in and out, you can turn that auto regen on and off, and it should help increase the performance that you currently have. Oops. Again, it's auto regen. Oops. Auto. Yeah. Okay, now it's not working for me. Auto regen. Oh, no. Regen auto. Default, it's on. But if you, like I said, if you have a larger drawing, you might want to try turning it off to see if that helps to speed things up. Now, this next one, this is again going back to file, keeping things clean, keeping things small, get rid of extra things that you don't want. We have a way to multiple different options to clean up the drawings. We have the purge and audit commands. I know everybody's probably used some of these, but there's something that I was made aware of just recently, and it is actually a hidden feature in Purge. So if you just type in Purge, oops, you will get the window pops up and it says, hey, here's all the items that are currently in your drawing, but you're not referencing it. It's huge help, especially if you have a lot of blocks, which this drawing does, that are not being referenced at all. So if you wanted to make your drawing run better, I recommend doing this a little bit later, or if you really see a performance hit on your drawing, give this a shot. These are the settings I usually keep. Purge anything that's nested, get rid of zero length geometry. Those are kind of leftover points and lines and stuff like that that are there in definition but don't actually show up in the drawing. And anything that's orphaned. Um, those might be aerials, they may be detailed PDFs, things that are in the drawing. It's no longer, or a block, they're no longer there or being referenced. You blocked it in and then you deleted it out, but the definition is still in the drawing. So in this case, I'm going to hit Purge All. And I usually recommend um, hitting it a couple times until everything shows that it's gone. There's nothing left in here. You can also be a little bit more selective if you have an idea that you'll be using something in the future, like a layer name. I saw there was a lot of demo layers that were listed in there that maybe I don't want to delete those. I want to keep them. You can actually go through and toggle on and off using the check marks what you want to get rid of. Now, the hidden feature that I learned and is very helpful when using drawings from outside of our office is if you do a dash purge. The dash purge brings up all the same things, but just not in a pretty window. And it adds a couple little other things that are not in the window at all. The biggest thing I have found is this reg apps. Reg apps, they kind of, from what I can find, Revit is a very big cause of these reg apps. So if you get an architectural plan in, or maybe a Vectorworks software plan in, they may have a translation type thing, and these reg apps get stuck in there, and they just hog up space. You can't use them. We can't use them. We can't see them. They're not there any other way to get rid of them except for this way. So you can do a dash purge, select reg apps, and then it's asking if you leave the asterisk, that means it will select everything, all the reg apps. And then in this case, I'll say yes. I don't know how many there. I don't know if I've ever run this before. So apparently I haven't. So here's, it's going through and finding anything, a registered application that is in this drawing that is not being used. And now I could be here for a long time. Who knows? These just are in here and they're not being used. And a lot of the drawings have things like this. Anytime we use outside office blocks or older drawings that we might have, this is a good thing to go through. And now in this case, I said I wanted to confirm everything. I have no idea what half of these things. Typically I do not confirm. I just say, hey, take them all out. If I find that I need them in the future, we'll get to that on the next topic. But I'm going to escape out. So again, dash purge, select reg apps. We're going to select them all. And no, we don't want to verify every name. Now, if I hit the F2 button, it will bring up that it found 2,921 registered apps that were deleted. That will help speed your drawing up and get all that extra information that's not being used out of your drawing. Again, especially when it's coming from other architects outside of our office, any files outside of our office, anytime we block things in, this stuff can be left behind and clog things up and slow things down. So again, not something I really knew about until recently. We were able to run this on a project that had quite a few different references to outside files, and it made the project run much better. So, so that's a good way to really clean things up. Now, what happens if you purge all your stuff and then realize you need things to be back in the drawing? Typically, that's not too, I mean, it can be kind of alarming at first, but let's say I purged all those out and there's a dimension style I need to use or a text style. What we can do is you can always use Design Center. Design Center is off to the side, or you can type in Design Center on the command line and it will pop it up. I have mine set to go right to our template file. So right now, this is the template file. So I know if I need information that I might have had a demo layer that I purged out, but now I got a demo of something that was on that layer. Instead of having to recreate that layer, make sure everything is correct with the naming, the layer type, line type, all color. I can actually just go into my design center, go to my template, go to layers, and it shows every single layer that is in the template. So I can even go, it's not the best viewing, but it makes it pretty quick. So let's say I got rid of the DM con spot. I can then select it and then just drag it right into my drawing. And now DM con spot is going to be in my drawing and I can start using it. And it has all the correct Pentair standard line types, colors, all that stuff is already, and naming is all right there. Right there she is. So, and that works for a lot of different items. Let me see if I can go back up here to the top. Blocks, detail view styles. I have not used that, so I'll be curious about how that works. Dim styles I use all the time. Layers I use all the time. Even layouts you can use. Um, this works pretty well when you have multiple layers across the bottom that you need to bring in to another drawing. Don't always get the right uh, viewport configurations, but it brings it all over. Line types are there. Multi-leaders is another one that gets out quite a bit. Or, or you get a drawing from somebody else and you need to bring these things in. This is a good way to do it. So all these different items can be brought in by just clicking and dragging. Now, I usually have it set up as a template, but you can also set it up so that I currently have it on open drawings or folders. Actually, I have it on folders. I could actually go to open drawings and if I have two drawings for the same project and I need just certain information transferred over, that's another way. Same information, the same type of information, but that can be all brought in. So if there's a whole bunch of layers you need to bring in, you can select all the layers all at once. So here, I mean, unfortunately, can't do Control All. I don't know why they don't have that allowed in here, but you can select the first one, hold down your Shift, and get all your demo layers right back into your drawing, and it will show you just like that. Now I have all my standard template um, layers into this. Now, that's great for standard AutoCAD type of features, especially if we're using our template. But what if we need to bring in Civil 3D types of styles? Works similar, it's just in a different place. If we go to our tool space and go to the settings tab, in here is all our default items. Now, what you may have to do is open the template. So right here, I have a template open. Let's say somehow I lost, or this is a drawing that was an older drawing and didn't have it in it. I lost the label style for a contour. I can go in here. This is in the drawing one. That's just a base drawing from the template. I can select my existing major labels, select that, drag it in. Now in this case, it's already existing there. I can say override it, or I can just say skip it. But again, that's a quick way to bring in settings and display settings for objects that might have been deleted or not present in your current drawing. Hope that makes a little bit of sense, but it really does work fairly well. Navigating what you're looking for can be a little bit difficult because there's so many different settings in Civil 3D. Here's a whole, or even if we update and make a surface style for model viewer and you don't have that in your drawing, we could actually put it in here and you'd be able to drag it over into any of the drawings that had been created before, and you'd have it there, and we could go and you'd use it right away and have those features available. Okay, so that's those two kind of go hand in hand. You're cleaning out all the extra stuff with the purge commands, but then bringing things in as you need it into your drawing, just in case. I mean, it's always good to have a clean drawing. And those two options there really help to do the job. The next thing, let me see. One of the biggest things that slows down drawing is a large surface. Um, and really, the next two topics on my thing kind of go hand in hand. First thing is to isolate and simplify your surfaces. I'm not a big proponent of doing this all the time, but there's cases where it's important to do it. You don't always need to see every single surface turned on, and I think most of us realize that already. Especially now, you can actually go in and we have a nice option to say no display. Um, the surface is still there. You can still hover over areas and get information for it, um, but it's not having to regenerate the graphics every single time you have to change anything. So that's a very simplified version of that. There's a little bit more about that. Um, but what is kind of even newer is there is with data references, you can have a data reference of a very large surface, say a LiDAR that you bring in using the instructions from the Google Drive. If you bring that into a separate drawing and data reference that in, you can actually have a border or only bring in a portion of that surface. So, I mean, if you wanted to think of it on a grand scale of things, we could actually create one surface for all of Center County from LiDAR and then have that somewhere on our server, and everybody could bring that in at any time. Now, if you brought that drawing into every single, or if that brought that surface into every single drawing, all the drawings would run slow. It's just not necessary to have all that extra information. But with the data reference, you can actually use you can simplify what is you want to see. You can draw borders, you can manipulate that so that you're only showing the area that you really need. Now, if this is something that might be interested to, especially for environmental, we can look into it. I have no idea how slow the original drawing would be working if we did all of Center County, but it's a possibility. Um, I was thinking about it last night. It, I think it would be really slow, but with the options to kind of post only or use only the surface area that you need, it might be a great way of going about it. From the examples that I've seen, you can just take a border and you can stretch it, and it automatically will show the data that's hidden. But it's weird. It's not actually hidden. It's not in the drawing until you show it. So it speeds things up, but gives you all the information that you can or might need. Let me see. Okay, now we're getting down to a couple little other things that you might not have noticed. Um, this is a really strange one, but it goes into kind of the training part of things. If you go to your Start tab in 2026, there's a new little, you get these things off to the left. The last one is Learning and Insights. Okay, I don't know how many people have clicked on this. It's interesting. It actually analyzes how you use CAD. In this case, I use a lot of inquiry tools. That means I'm going through and checking plans, reviewing them, making sure they're the right size. So I use dimensioning or those kind of commands more than any other command at this time. Now, previously, when I was working on one of the designs, the other tab was much higher. It was more of a modify objects or those kind of things. So it keeps track of what commands you're using and gives you a breakdown of what is used the most often. And then it can recommend tools that you may not use much, but with your amount of how you use CAD, it may be very useful. So it goes down here. Here's a feature recommendation: cut fill balancing. It says, hey, we noticed that you did these analysis lately. Do you know how to use the cut fill? So this is a good way to find out how to use tools to make your workflow better. Um, I mean, some of the stuff, it's not as useful. I mean, I'm like scale command. Yep, I use the scale command a lot. So I think I have a good idea, but I'm not sure why they're recommending it. I don't know. Maybe I'm doing it just a little bit different than what they think. But they also suggest best practices. That goes back to purging, things like that. There's another tool that I did not talk about with cleaning, and that's down here. You can really get very specific and clean out a lot of stuff that way also. That's a whole nother option. Um, they're also recommending to me some little bit higher end, um, I want to say, tools like the grading optimization tool. Now I've messed with this some. I wasn't real happy with the results, but I haven't used it in a while. So it's something I should probably go back and revisit and learn more about. So if there's some, might have some downtime, or you just think, hey, is there some way I can be doing this task better? Check out this Learning and Insights tab. It has some good suggestions, and it might actually be very useful. Like here's a draw order. That might be, I use that quite a bit, but maybe I'm not using it quite as efficiently as I should be. Um, you can also click on the Learn My Insights. That will take you to a website, um, and it just talks about this screen itself. But yeah, that's definitely something a little bit different. I highly doubt that a lot of you have really looked at that before, but it can be a little kind of useful, interesting to see. Hey, maybe I can find something like this ref edit. I need to look at that because I don't think I've ever used that command before. So might want to look at that, see how that works and what it actually does. All right. Another thing that I found a lot of people aren't aware of, and I myself probably don't use nearly as much as what I used to, is the transparent commands. It's a whole separate toolbar over with, oh my goodness. On my computer, it's off to the side. These are commands that help while you're within a another command. It's kind of weird. It's like a command inside of another command. The one I used to use quite a bit was I would draw a polyline, or when we were creating base maps and doing the line work and it wasn't automated and I needed to connect the dots, this was the command I went to. I would do a polyline, I'd snap to a node, and there's an option here to say, oh, I'm going to use this one right here, and then I can set enter points. And you just point, you look at your point numbers, and you say, I need to connect point 100 to 150. You type 100-150, and boom, it would connect all those points right away, real quick with the polyline. And when you're done, you would hit escape, and you're back into the polyline command. So these can be very useful. Another tool that I used it for is to create. Sometimes we had just a written deed, and I wanted to get the property line according to deed in. You could go in, do a polyline. There's an option here that is bearing and distance. You would just type in the bearing and distance as you go through, and it would put it all in. If you didn't want to use like a parcel or one of those tools, if you just wanted a dumb polyline type of thing. So transparent tools, those were the two that I used the most. There's a lot of other options in here. I recommend people go explore, see what might help them. Uh, there's one I don't think I've realized was there, profile grade and length. So lots of different things in here that, just check them out, see, try them out, see if they're useful to you. And then the last thing I have, there's a couple other things, but um, I want to remind people about Project Explorer. Hopefully it will open. There we go. Again, this is what's called a modeless window. So you can have this open at the same time as doing work in CAD. I can see where environmental department, this is a must use. Okay. If you haven't used it yet, or don't know how to use it, please look into it, ask questions. This is probably the quickest way to update a lot of your storm networks. um, to add descriptions to your manholes or your inlets to manipulate how things work, not just one inlet at a time, but all of them. You can change the way it's displayed. You can see lots of information about how it's running. Let me see if I can hit the structures here. Uh, Sometimes, I guess not this time, it will show the actual profile here. I guess I have to hit the right. Let me see, the sanitary. Okay, so sanitary is working. Um, it shows you a quick profile of what your sanitary is doing, how tall your manhole is, your pipe run. Again, it's a way to visualize and manipulate a larger scale of items at one shot. It's still a little strange how it works. Not. I mean, if I wanted to change all these descriptions, you select it, you right click, and then you say, hey, let's change set description. And this is where you would go in and type in whatever manhole name. I mean, in this case, it was existing sanitary sewer manhole, so we changed that. But if it was an inlet, you would be able to put in your, this is exactly where you would put in your 2x4 uh, type C inlet with bicycle safe grate. You could do that if you selected all, well, let me see, can I do that? I can select all of them, even though I probably shouldn't because I see there's M's and C's in here. You would go in here, you would type all that in one time, and you'd only have only have the inlets that you need changed. Type in one time and would update them all. So that's a really important way and quick way of fixing things rather than clicking on individual structures one by one and pasting them in that way. Um, but again, like I said, there's so much more to this. We've barely scratched the surface of it. It has lots of different surface information, corridor information, point information, um, assemblies, all different things that are AutoCAD based items can be found in here and can be manipulated within this window. And have this open while you're doing other things in the plan view. Um, so I believe that's feature lines probably. So there is a ton of different things you can analyze, you can look at, and go by, and get the information that you may need to help make a better design. And this works all within with data referenced items and such. I'm trying to think if there. I got just a couple other little things real quick. Real quick. Um, I don't know if anybody's noticed this. Uh, 2026, I believe, added the option. Let me see if you have a polyline. I do a lot of grip editing, and if you hover over a grip, it gives you the option to add, remove. But if you now hover over the end, there's also an extend. So that basically puts a new grip in there. Previously, you couldn't do that. You would have to add one in the middle, and then you'd have to take the last one and stretch it. So that extend gives you that extra option to add a new grip out from the last one that was on that polyline. So that's a nice little feature that was added in there. Again, we didn't go over bringing in LiDAR or soils. Those instructions can be found on the Google Drive. Just follow those step by step, and you should have that fixed. And if we get really creative and want to try to build a whole LiDAR of Center County, we may be able to do something like that and then have data references in. We'll see. That's a iffy thing. Oh, as a common courtesy to your other teammates, if you are opening a file just to review things and not actually make changes, and you're just referencing information, please open it as read-only. That will let whoever else need to get into that file open it up and make changes while you're still reviewing it. So that will be, that's just a common courtesy to help let work get done without having to try to communicate who has what open and where. Um, And then one other thing I ran into recently that I'm still messing around with is um, one of my One suggestion I make to whenever we are working with files from outside of our office is do not block them in to our files. If you need to, XREF them in and then trace over, or only get the information that you must have. That will help eliminate having like all those um, reg apps loaded into your drawing and hidden in the background. And then when you're done with the XREF, you can always unload it or detach it, and that information is gone. It helps to minimize the number of layers in the layer manager. Oh, that was something I wanted to show. Because right now I'm working with files from like 4 different companies on one project. I don't want to bring all their files in because I've noticed that they don't always match layer configurations. They don't always square in their drawings, but I need to have that information in my drawing so I can reference it. So bringing the drawings in on the proper layers, even if you have to make a separate layer, we have the underscore xref as a base layer. You can put a underscore dash or underscore xref dash gas station underscore xref dash um, restaurant. You put those in there, you can always turn them off individually and not have to worry about having everything show up on your screen all at one time. And when you're done using those drawings for reference, detach them, get rid of them from your main drawing, and that will help speed up the process and make your drawing much clearer. One of the things that I've been struggling with, even with having separate layers for different projects that we're bringing in, is that the XREFs are just as bold as everything else. There's 2 different ways to do this. Typically, what I would uh, do is I would try to make the XREF lighter so it doesn't stand out as much. But I don't like manipulating all the layers to make them gray or something like that because I don't want to lose information from the original. So in the past, I've always gone into my options from the command line, and there's an option under the display tab for XREF display. You can change the slider to make it kind of just fade. It's a fade control. So I might move it up to 70, and it would make it so it would fade out that entire drawing. So it kind of went in the background a little. Now, the issue I'm running into right now is the problem with this. This is a CAD setting, not a drawing setting. So the next drawing I open, all my XREFs are also faded, which, okay, that's fine and dandy in some cases. But then I also have multiple XREFs, and it doesn't matter. It does it for all. Oops, it does it for all XREFs. So if you have 3 XREFs in there, it's going to fade all of them out. That might not be what you want. Um, One option may be to go to your layers. Now, again, here's another quick tip. Layers. We have a lot of different layer filters. If you need a filter, um, or if you have one that you commonly could really use. So like in this one, this is all non-XREF layers. So right now I don't see a single XREF layer. Go in there and turn that on. If you go to all, there's in this drawing alone, there's 1,300 layers with the XREFs. When I just say all non-XREF layers, it's down to 355. So that's a quick way to filter things out. If you don't need to see those XREF layers, that's a quick way of doing it. Or if there's specialized layers like demo layers or anything like that, these are all in template. Or if there's some layer configuration that you use a lot and you only need to see certain things, we can do that. But what I was getting at is also there's the XREF section down here. So if I only want to see the XREF layer, I can select on that. It shows me all this. What I've been messing around with lately is selecting them all. And way over here, there's a transparency option. Um, you can go in here and you say, okay, I want a transparency of 70. And now everything from the XREF just kind of gets a little lighter. It's harder to see. It disappears into the background a little bit. I don't think I have an XREF really easily shown on this one. I think they're all turned off already. Um, but that's one way of helping to clear up your visualization of your drawings and your projects. If you need to change it back, you can go back in there change it back to 0, and everything should come back. Um, the layer configuration transparent will affect plotting. The fade control does not affect plotting. Just keep that in mind. With that, I think that's everything and a little bit more. There's always new things to learn. Um, and always things are changing. So keep aware of those items. And oh, the last thing, like I said earlier, if you find a tool or have a tool that you use quite often, share it with everybody. Let people know. Tell myself or Evan or and we can bring it up or include it in our next training. Um, that way, everybody can be on the same page when we're going through. If you use a tool or you do some technique that maybe somebody else is not aware of, it might cause confusion. So bring it up, let us know. We can go through it, see what a best workflow might be, and then help everybody implement that tool to become more efficient with our projects. With that, I think I'm done. Any questions for today? If not, you can always ask it another time. And I hope this was helpful and have a great day.